Friday, the 2nd of June 2023. In this news flash, I want to talk about this BRICS currency that is in the news. And the reason I'm going to talk about this is for most of us, and I am not a financial analyst, a guy that is a fundi on money stuff and so forth. I'm just a guy that see things and read it and think about it. But there's a lot of speculation around the BRICS currency, and there's a lot of people that see the headlines and then they make posts on social media based on their own perception and expectations of the currency. And I think we just need to get some sanity in this discussion. The reality is that the BRICS currency is not intended for you and me to use there at a shop to buy cigarettes or buy a Coke or buy a chocolate or buy a piece of biltong or something like that. That is not what that currency is about. That currency is about trading between the BRICS partners. Because the problem that is now becoming serious for the BRICS partners, and if I talk about the BRICS partners, I'm talking about the countries that are trying to break away from the stranglehold of the so-called West. The financial stranglehold that the West has on basically all the countries in the world. The dollar has been weaponized, and that made it possible for the Americans specifically to sanction the shit out of everybody. There's basically not a country in this world that has not been sanctioned or under sanctions of this evil global terrorist organization called the West. So their biggest mistake they made was the sanctions against Russia. That was the biggest mistake the West made. That was their final nail in their own coffin. Because Russia is not a third world country. Forget about all the shit that the media wanted you to believe, that Russia is a fuel station with nukes and crap like that. That is what those American senators have been saying. Even that geriatric president of theirs was saying that. It is a fuel station with nukes. Well, it appears that that fuel station has got a few other things that counts in its favor. But leave that alone. The fact of the matter is that Russia survived the sanction onslaught remarkably. But the Russians had to continue with their lives. So the Russians turned away from the West for trading, and they started to focus on trading with the non-West countries. And immediately there was a problem with the payments, because in the past everything was done in dollars and that was it. So if a country, say like Uganda, wanted to trade with Russia for oil, Uganda at first had to go and buy dollars with in the market somewhere, and then pay for that oil with the dollars. Now, if Uganda is under sanctions, they cannot get hold of dollars very easily. And that makes the sanctions successful. But then the Russians say, listen, pay us with rubles. And all of a sudden, a lot of countries realized, if we don't trade with a dollar, we can bypass the sanctions. And that movement started. I listened to a discussion about a year ago in which the financial guy said that the previous year in their annual meeting they were talking about the possibilities of de-dollarization, and it was unanimously accepted that de-dollarization will take place. It was inevitable. But they looked at a timeline of between 8 to 12 years. And then the Biden administration got that clever brainwave to start a sanction war against Russia. And that sanction war shortened the de-dollarization period dramatically. Now the guys that are in the know reckon it will take between 1 and 2 years for de-dollarization to be basically complete. Okay, let's get back to the BRICS. Now the BRICS countries were now trading with one another in their own currencies, but it created a problem for a country, say like Russia. Russia is selling their gas and their oil and their fertilizers and their grain and stuff for local currencies. But let's just take an example now with India. Now the Russians sit with a lot of rupees, which they can't really use, because say they want bananas from Uganda. Uganda is not interested in getting paid in rupees, because they can't use the rupees. So the Russians have to pay Uganda in a currency that Uganda can use. And that creates a problem. So over the past few months, the Russians has changed their attitude subtly and encouraged their trading partners to use either rubles or the Chinese money. And that has got now problems of its own. And it looks like there's not a single country in the BRICS bloc that actually wants its currency to become a new global reserve currency, because there's a lot of technical issues around being a reserve currency that makes it very difficult for the country that owns that currency. So nobody is really interested in becoming the next global reserve currency. And that is what triggered this move to work on a BRICS currency. Very important about the BRICS currency is that there is consensus among the members that that currency must be backed by something. The most obvious something is gold, but the Russians are of the opinion that that currency must be backed by a basket of commodities, of which gold is one of the commodities. And that is a super good idea. So, to come back, the BRICS currency is not going to be for you to go and buy a packet of cigarettes or go and buy a beer at the Shebeen or something like that. The BRICS currency will be for South Africa trading with Russia and using the BRICS currency. So the countries will build up BRICS currency reserves, but the beauty is they can use, South Africa can use that BRIC currency to buy gas and oil from Russia. They can use that currency to buy solar panels from China. They can use that currency to buy rice from India, and vice versa. And that is, in a nutshell, the things that the BRICS countries and the BRICS Bank are working on now. And then there's something else that you must not forget. Saudi Arabia has already joined the BRICS Bank, because it looks like Saudi Arabia is interested to become the main financial backer of the BRICS Bank, because Saudi's got money. And the West is in trouble. And they cannot do anything about this, because this is a natural process which they instigated by putting sanctions against Russia. That was a big mistake. I hope you find this interesting and you can find some value out of this. I'm just going to read you the headlines of a tweet that I saw this morning. While everyone is distracted with Biden falling, the BRICS group is on the verge of potentially creating a currency backed by gold. This seems potentially monumental. They could potentially destroy the fiat dollar, which may forever ruin the ability of the US to hit countries with sanctions Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Indonesia, Egypt are considering joining in the alliance. Think about that. One of the results of a BRICS currency is going to mean the destruction of the dollar and the Americans' ability to finance their wars and atrocities around the globe. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.